Welcome to our hybrid meeting. Participants in the room, please do not join the meeting in Zoom. Virtual participants, if you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members attending virtually, if you are able, please activate your video for purpose of quorum and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Members of the committee, when you wish to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote, please push the person button on your microphone or raise your hand virtually. Those in the room will have their microphone turned on when they are recognized to speak. Those attending virtually can unmute themselves when recognized. When you are finished, all should mute themselves. Members of the public who have registered to speak, those appearing virtually, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. If you are here in person, when you are called to speak, approach one of the two podiums on either side of the dais and you will be recognized. For all registrants, the clerk will tell you when your time is up. After all public speakers, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the committee, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Thank you. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. This meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order. All speakers wishing to address the committee regarding an agenda item must first complete a registration form and submit it to the city clerk designee. Speakers may speak to the committee only after they're called by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. After speaking to the committee, if you're there in person, please take your seat in the gallery. The public is not allowed to address or respond to speakers or committee members unless and until they've been recognized by the chair of the committee. Are there any notified absences?
Yes, Ms. Westra is a late scratch.
All right. I call this meeting of ALRC to order at 5:38 p.m. Mr. Verbeek, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Alder Miadzi? Welcome back. Alder Revere?
Here.
Alder Revere is present. Mr. Baruchuk? Mr. Baruchuk is here. Dr. Reese?
Here.
Dr. Reese is here. Ms. Farley?
Present.
Ms. Farley is here. Mr. Donnelly?
Present.
Donnelly's here. Alder Knox?
Here.
Alder Knox is here. Ms. Carter?
Sorry about that, Chair. I'm present.
Gotcha. Okay. Ms. Carter?
Here.
Chair, we do have quorum.
Excellent. First item is approval of the minutes from our meeting on October 18th. Committee, what is your pleasure?
I move for approval.
Your motion to approve. Is there a second?
Ms. Baruchuk is second.
Are there any corrections? Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Mr. Verbeek, are there any registrants for general public comment?
There are not.
All right. Disclosures and recusals. So at this time, members of the committee should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such? It appears there are not. Moving right along, presentation of the consent agenda. So at this time, Mr. Verbeek will present a proposed consent agenda. This is a set of hopefully straightforward items that we will vote on in a block rather than discussing them individually. If there are any items in this list that any member would like separated for discussion and debate purposes, they may say so. For those in attendance, wait until after this section when we voted on this at which point Mr. Verbeek will read the list again and make it clear whether you can take off. Mr. Verbeek, will you please present the consent agenda?
Sure. The proposed consent agenda for November 22nd, 2023 for the ALRC. Recommended council to grant change of agent items 4, 5, 6, and 7. Business name change, item 8 and 24. Change of license premises, item 10. Request for extension of license issuance beyond 180-day limit under MGO 38.05. Item number 12. Refer to future meeting of the Alcohol License Review Committee. Item 17, public hearing, license transfer. Change of agent, item 25. And the following recommended to council to place on file without prejudice. Public hearing, new license, item 18, and 18 plus Center for Visual and Performing Arts license, item number 19.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. Committee, are there any items that you would like separated from the consent agenda?
Items 14 and 15.
14 and 15 are not on the consent agenda. So yes, we will discuss them.
Thank you.
No problem. And what additional items would people like separated from the consent agenda? If there's nothing further, a motion would be in order.
Ms. Baruchik has his hand up.
Mr. Bruchak.
I move the consent agenda with all of the recommendations as read.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Alder Knox. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved as proposed. So again, attendees, listen now, and if everything you are here for is on the list that Mr. Verbeek is about to read out, you are done for the night and you can head home. Mr. Verbeek.
The past consent agenda for ALRC meeting November 22nd, 2023. Recommended council to grant item number 4, change of agent, Quick Trip Inc. at 3401 University Avenue. Item number 5, change of agent at Lotzi LLC. Item number 6, change of agent 711 Inc. Item number 7, change of agent, Quick Trip Inc. at 3153 Maple Grove Drive. Item number 8, business name change, Ultimate Mart LLC. Item 10, change of license premises, SSP America Inc. Item number 12, request for extend license issuance beyond 180-day limit under MGO 38.05, BB1 LLC. Item number 25, business name change, SAS Madison LLC.
Number 24.
I'm sorry, 24, yes, 24. Refer to future meeting of the Alcohol License Review Committee. Item number 17, public hearing license transfer for Dominique Johnson. This is at the request of the applicant. Item number 25, change of agent, SAS Madison LLC. This is a request of the MPD. And recommend to council to place on file without prejudice. Item number 18, public hearing new license, 57 Ford Entertainment LLC. And number 19, 18 plus Center for Visual and Performing Arts license, also for 57 Ford Entertainment LLC. These are both being withdrawn by the applicant.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Verbeek. Those items are disposed of. I see that we have an interpreter with us tonight. So, Mr. Verbeek, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot operator's licenses. So, item 2, operator license application. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
I do not see anyone registered for item number 2.
Has this applicant been before us before?
No, this is a new application.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Ms. Farley,
Move to refer to the next meeting.
do I hear a second? Second from Alder Knox. We have a motion to refer to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 2 is referred. Item 3, Mr. Verbeek, is there a registrant here for this item?
I do have a registration. I'm not sure if I'm seeing them in the Zoom.
There's no one by that name in the Zoom.
Has this applicant been before us before?
They have not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Ms.
I
Farley,
move that go ahead.
Move to refer to the next regularly scheduled meeting, the LRC.
do I hear a second? Second from Alder Knox. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 3 is also referred. So, Mr. Verbeek, which item or items will require an interpreter?
That would be items 13 and 14 and 15. And 14 and 15 are together.
15. Excellent. So, item 13, 21 plus entertainment license for El Panzon at 1310 South Midvale. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do not.
All right, committee, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Baruchek has his hand up.
Mr. Brusha,
I move to refer to the next ALRC meeting.
your motion to refer, is there a second? Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Second from Ms. Farley. Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13 is referred. Is there a registrant here for items 14 and 15?
Yes, Oscar Zaragoza is here in person and registered for both items.
Excellent. Mr. Verbeek, have you yet sworn in our interpreter?
I have not. Can you affirm that you accurately interpret English to Spanish and Spanish to English?
I do. And this
Excellent.
is Certified Court Interpreter, Lorena Manjan.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us, Lorena. Oscar, welcome to ALRC. Can you please tell us, introduce yourself and tell us about your proposed business?
Bienvenido, Oscar, a esta junta de LRC. ¿Se puede presentar y decirnos sobre su propuesta, por favor?
Mi nombre es Oscar Zaragoza.
My name is Oscar Zaragoza.
Y pues la propuesta de mi business va a ser restaurante y salón de eventos.
And the business proposal that I have is for a restaurant and an event center.
Excellent. Thank you. Assistant City Attorney Zilvi.
Excelente, gracias. Ahora llamo a la abogada asistente Sylvie.
Hello, thank you.
Hola, gracias.
Just to refresh the committee's recollection, after the last meeting, I wanted to organize a meeting with Mr. Zaragoza and Captain Zanders, and another meeting with zoning and planning, because I wasn't sure that he really understood what he was getting into, basically. And we had a meeting on site. Oh, sorry.
Si le puedo refrescar la memoria al comité, después de la última junta que tuvimos, yo les informé que yo me quería reunir con el señor Zaragoza y con el capitán Sanders. También queríamos reunirnos con las personas de la planificación urbana, porque yo pensaba que él no entendía realmente en qué se estaba metiendo.
So we met on site at 1824 South Park Street, Captain Zanders, Alder Knox, me, Mr. Zaragoza, his financial partner, Toby, and then there was also an officer there translating. And so we discussed what it was he was intending to do and got a better idea of the layout of the site.
Entonces nos reunimos en el sitio del 1824 Park Street. Nos reunimos yo, el señor Zaragoza, el señor Knox, el oficial, el capitán Sanders. Nos reunimos también con su pareja económica, con Toby, con un oficial que estaba traduciendo. Lo que queríamos es entender más el plano del lugar para entender mejor en qué se estaba metiendo.
And then Attorney McReynolds, myself, Jenny Kirchgatter from zoning, and Colin from planning, and Mr. Zaragoza met and went through in detail what it meant in terms of a conditional use for what he was going to be doing on site. And he did decide that what he wants to do would be, under the zoning, a restaurant nightclub. And so he is proceeding with the conditional use process, filling out the paperwork. We went through basically line item by line item, what he needed to do for his next steps, both for the zoning piece and the ALRC piece.
Entonces nos reunimos también y nos reunimos con la abogada, la otra abogada, con Jen Cullen de la planificación urbana, con el señor Zaragoza, y hablamos en detalle sobre el uso condicional y sobre el sitio. Realmente lo que nosotros pensamos que estaba sucediendo es que él quería más bien tener la intención de utilizar el lugar como un restaurante y un club, como una disco. Entonces, nosotros percibimos que sería mejor que utilizara el uso condicional de la licencia, y yo le ayudé a llenar los formularios línea por línea de cada artículo para saber cuáles serían los siguientes pasos a tomar, y entonces él piensa continuar con esa solicitud.
And I'll just let the committee know too that there was some confusion over the term nightclub. And just even with English as my first language, the zoning piece is really difficult to understand. And Mr. Zaragoza was insistent he wasn't going to have a nightclub as that term is commonly understood. So we fleshed out all of those details, and he is on the right path to do what he intends to do with his business, and that's the update on that.
Y hubo algo de confusión con ese término de una, digamos, discoteca o club. Aún para mí, con el inglés siendo mi lenguaje principal, yo tenía algo de confusión sobre esto de la zonificación. Entonces, él insistía que él no iba a tener una discoteca, pero él está yendo hacia el camino correcto para utilizar el lugar como él lo desea.
Thank you, Assistant City Attorney Sylvie. So,
Gracias, abogada asistente Sylvie.
Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant?
Comité, ¿qué preguntas tienen para el aplicante?
I have a question.
Alder Knox, then Alder Carter, or sorry, Ms. Carter.
Primero el señor Knox y después la señora Carter.
I had a question. It was our understanding when we had a previous meeting that the hours would be adjusted for particularly the entertainment portion of the restaurant, and that it was my desire that that would end at midnight. So I don't see that in any of the the licenses here.
Yo tenía una pregunta porque mi entendimiento es que se iban a ajustar las horas de función específicamente cuando se trata de la porción del entretenimiento del restaurante. Mi deseo y mi entendimiento es que iban a terminar, la hora de término era a las medianoche y yo no veo esto aquí indicado en ninguna de las solicitudes.
Sí, yo cambié le mandé un email a Jennifer. Me dijo que ella se lo iba a mandar no me acuerdo el nombre, pero sí lo cambiamos los horarios. Ya no iba a ser a las 2 de la mañana, sino a la medianoche. Pero sí los cambiamos.
We did change that. I sent an email to Jennifer and she was supposed to forward it to, I don't remember their name, but we did change the hours from 2 a.m. to midnight. We did do that change.
Okay. Is there anyone know where that documentation is?
¿Alguien sabe dónde están esos documentos?
I can answer that. Alder Knox, ultimately, the documentation that is most important is going to be what we vote on tonight and refer back to the Common Council. So if we have a condition on the license, that is the ultimate source of truth.
Okay.
Yo
All
puedo
right.
contestar esto, señor Knox. Yo lo que le puedo decir es que los documentos en los cuales votemos hoy y lo que mandemos de regreso al Consejo Municipal es lo que va a ser más importante. Entonces, lo que contengan estos documentos va a ser lo que va a ser. Dice él, ok, gracias.
Okay, and I can defer to Captain Hansen on this one, but I don't know if you communicated with, is this just for the applicant, the questions? Right now?
Yeah, let's do that at this point. And I'm going to let Assistant City Attorney Zillaby cut the line.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that he did in fact change the hours to represent that he would be closing at midnight. And I misunderstood when he sent it to me. I thought he was sending me what he had already sent to the clerk. So I didn't realize that he intended for me to forward that to Jim. So I will find that and forward it to Jim. But he did in fact amend his application to put closing time of midnight.
Le doy entonces la palabra a la abogada Sylvie para tal vez aclarar esto. Ella responde, sí, él me mandó la documentación que cambiaba las horas a la medianoche de cierre. Yo tuve un malentendido, yo no sabía que él quería que yo se lo mandara a la secretaria y que la intención era que se le mandara a Jim. Yo voy a encontrar este correo electrónico y se lo voy a mandar a Jim, pero sí él hizo saber su intención de cerrar a la medianoche.
All right, Ms. Carter.
Señora Carter.
Yeah, so I just need clarification. Is this restaurant and nightclub or a restaurant and event space?
Entonces yo necesito clarificación. ¿Ese va a ser un restaurante y va a ser un salón de eventos o un restaurante y como una discoteca?
No, va a ser restaurante y salón de eventos. Desde el mes pasado hubo esa confusión, solamente que estamos sacando el permiso de entretenimiento. Aplicamos para un nightclub, pero no lo vamos a usar para nightclub, solamente como para llevar, si queremos llevar un grupo en vivo o poner un DJ.
No, it will be a restaurant and event center. Last month there was some confusion about that, but we are trying to apply for an entertainment license. We did have to apply as a nightclub, but we don't intend to use it as a nightclub. We just want to be able to have a live band or a DJ.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, gracias.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carter. Alder Miazzi, then Ms. Farley.
Gracias ahora la señora Miazzi y después la otra.
I'm glad to hear that Attorney Celery and Alder Knox was able to visit the site and actually have a in-person. But I'm wondering if there was a community engagement as far as the community meeting.
I'm sorry, the interpreter is having a hard time understanding.
Yes, has the community been engaged? Were there members of the community who came to a public meeting?
Esta persona quiere saber si hubo algunas personas comunitarias que vinieron a esta junta a participar.
No.
No.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, there was a meeting, a neighborhood meeting scheduled. Only one person appeared at that meeting, and two other people communicated by email related to that. So we did have the required meeting. We just had one person show up, and two other people electronically communicated.
Yo puedo responder eso. Sí tuvimos una reunión comunitaria dentro de ese vecindario, como se requiere. Una persona se presentó en persona y dos otras mandaron correspondencia por correo electrónico. Todo esto relacionado a este asunto. Entonces sí tuvimos esta junta que se requiere. Nuevamente dos personas, una persona fue y dos personas se comunicaron electrónicamente.
All right, Ms. Farley.
Bien, entonces la señora Farley.
On the application, the applicant is listed as a sole proprietor. However, the name of the sole proprietor is listed as an LLC.
Sí, yo tengo una pregunta de que en la solicitud él parece ser el único propietario, pero después en la otra solicitud aparece como un LLC.
Sí, lo que tengo es el LLC.
Yes, I do have an LLC.
And you are applying as an LLC?
¿Está aplicando como la LLC?
Me parece que sí.
I think so.
Dr. Reese.
Dr. Reese.
Excited to see an establishment on Park Street.
Me gustaría ver un establecimiento ahí en la Park Street.
One question, this is for an 18 plus entertainment license, but I don't see the information on the application that's specific for 18 plus. Was that filled out?
Yo veo que esa es una solicitud para entretenimiento de mayores de edad, pero yo no veo que se haya llenado específicamente por qué se requiere esta licencia de 18 de la mayoría de edad.
¿Esa pregunta es para mí? ¿Perdón?
¿Is the question for me?
Oh.
Sí.
Pues lo hicimos de menor de edad, digo, de 18, porque como van a ir menores de edad, son fiestas particulares.
We did 18 and up because minors will come only to private parties.
There is a page on the application that asks some questions to make sure that the applicant understands the unique considerations for people who are 18 to 20. So let me look at this.
Hay una página solicitud con varias preguntas para el que hace la solicitud para que entienda más a fondo las consideraciones únicas hacia estas personas de 18 a 20 años. Déjeme verlas.
I think you answered some of the questions on the previous page, but it would be good to have that filled out if we do move forward tonight to send to the clerk.
Usted contestó algunas de las preguntas en la página anterior, pero sí habría bueno llenar todas las preguntas para mandárselo a la secretaria después de la junta de hoy.
Ok, perfecto.
And last question, there was some concern from a neighborhood resident about noise. I believe that's why the hours were shortened, but I wanted to ask the applicant about the plan to monitor people who are outside of the venue or who might stick around after closing time.
Y sé que había una preocupación de una de las vecinas. Ella estableció que tenía preocupación sobre el ruido y el escándalo. Yo pienso que fue una de las razones por las que se cortaron las horas de cierre, pero yo le quiero preguntar al que hace la solicitud, ¿qué planes tiene para vigilar a las personas que están afuera o que se quedan afuera por un rato después de la hora de cierre para controlar el ruido?
Tenemos pensado tener 2 securities afuera y uno adentro para estar ¿cómo se dice? Para estar vigilando a los carros que no tengan ruido con el estéreo, y a la hora de la salida o a la hora del cierre, asegurarnos que se vayan todos sin ningún disturbio.
We are thinking of having 2 securities outside and 1 inside. We will be monitoring cars and their stereo, how loud they are to make sure they're not very loud. We will be monitoring this during closing time to make sure that everybody leaves and there's no disturbances.
Ms. Carter. Ms. Carter?
Oh, okay.
La señora Carter.
I have a couple questions going back to the application on number 14. You have on this, I'm going back to Ms. Farley's question too, because you have an LLC, but you didn't check LLC, which has to appear on your state seller's permit. So I was just wondering what is on your state seller's permit?
Tengo un par de preguntas. En su aplicación en el número 14, regresando a la pregunta que hizo la señorita Farley, usted puso ahí que está diciendo ahora que es un LLC, pero no marcó la casilla del LLC en la solicitud. Tiene que presentarse así en su solicitud de ventas estatales. ¿Qué es lo que puso en ese permiso de ventas, en ese documento estatal?
No recuerdo, la verdad.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Okay. Then I have another question. This is a comment that Ms. Reese-Peter has made, who lives on North Street. And basically, a lot of people don't think that there's any houses on North Street, but there are. And so it's been a place where, because it's wooded, people have wandered down there. They've had folks living in the woods, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want you to be mindful that you are next to a residential street, even though from Park Street, it does not look like a residential street. And those are your neighbors.
Otra pregunta que tengo es, una cosa que dijo la señora Reese, otra persona que se estableció aquí de una calle ahí junto, es que mucha gente no se da cuenta de que hay personas que viven en esa calle North Street. Parece que no hay casas ahí, pero sí las hay. A veces hay personas que andan por ahí, hasta incluso se han ido a acampar ahí en los árboles, pero tiene que mantener en mente que sí hay personas ahí viviendo y que se tiene que mantener el ruido más abajo. Muchas veces de la calle Park Street no se ven todas las casas que existen en el North Street. Entonces quiero nada más que mantenga en mente que estos van a ser sus vecinos.
Claro que sí.
Of course, yes.
Vamos a tratar de mantener el volumen bajo y estar monitorizando. Hay un aparato que se usa para el sonido afuera. Vamos a tratar de obtenerlo también.
We will try to keep the volume low. We will monitor things. There is a device that we're going to obtain that monitors sound outside. So we are trying to get that as well.
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
Sí, gracias.
Deputy City Clerk Verbeck.
Entonces, el co-secretario Verbeck.
Chair, I'm just going to raise my hand in Zoom when either me or Mr. Baruchuk have our hands up. He is asked to speak. I just want to say before he speaks that I had the applicant check LLC on their application, so that's been updated.
Sí, cuando yo o la persona nombrada como verber check queremos salvar, vamos a levantar la mano por el Zoom. Antes de que él pueda hablar, quiero nada más hacerle saber que ya le pedí al señor que modifique y que cambie en la solicitud como LLC. Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. The chair recognizes Mr. Baruchuk.
Thank you, Chair. I want to ask a question or two that gets at the entertainment license issue.
Please.
So I'll highlight that the applicant has stated that this application is for a restaurant that provides entertainment. So I'll ask Mr. Zaragoza, are you planning for your establishment to be a restaurant from open to closed every day, all the time?
Tengo una pregunta 2 sobre este asunto de la licencia de entretenimiento. Usted está diciendo que quiere que tener un restaurante con entretenimiento, entonces esta pregunta es para el señor Zaragoza. ¿Usted tiene en mente tener función del restaurante de apertura a clausura todos los días, siempre?
Sí.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So that would mean then people under the age of 21 are permitted anyway.
Entonces, go ahead. It was for interpreter. Was your question done?
Sorry, I'll speak faster. So people in your establishment are permitted anyway. So you don't actually need the 18 plus entertainment license. You would be okay with the 21 plus entertainment license. And I believe that the questions on the 18 plus section of the application are actually relevant to your situation. So I guess I would ask you, is it okay if we consider your application to be for a 21 plus entertainment license? And then I'd ask the same question to the deputy city clerk.
Entonces, si esa es la función que piensa tener para el restaurante, entonces pensaría permitido que las personas de 21 años para abajo estuvieran ahí de todas maneras. Entonces, usted está aplicando para entretenimiento de 18 años para arriba, y entonces está bien con tener la licencia solamente de 21 para arriba. En la sección de 18 para arriba, usted pienso que estas preguntas sí califican para su situación. Entonces, si esta sucede así, entonces la licencia de entretenimiento para 21 para arriba sería la correcta, pero también le hago esta pregunta a la cosecretaria.
Ok. Entonces, ¿recomiendan cambiarlo yo la aplicación a 21 más?
Okay, so you're recommending I change the application to 21 and up?
Asking is, can we, I don't want to drag this out any longer than it has to be. I believe that, and I'm seeking permission from you and the chair and the staff here, that we can just consider this an application for a 21 plus or entertainment license instead of making you go back and fill out these 2 additional questions.
Estoy preguntando, yo pienso que no quiero arrastrar esto más y demorar esto más de lo que se debe, pero yo pienso que si tenemos el permiso de usted, el permiso de la persona a cargo, del personal, que podríamos nosotros establecer que este sea un establecimiento de 21 para arriba en lugar de que tenga que regresar a llenar las otras 2 páginas.
Sí, claro.
So I would
Yes, of
like
course.
to redirect this question to Assistant City Attorney Zellaby and or Assistant City Attorney McReynolds to ask, based on the meetings that you have had with the applicant, is that change in that Mr. Baruchuk has proposed in order with your understanding of the plan of business?
Yo le quiero dirigir esta pregunta más bien a la coabogada Silvy o la abogada McReynolds, basado en las juntas que han tenido con el solicitante y de la pregunta que hizo el señor Berberchak. ¿Ustedes piensan que sería más adecuado entonces llenar o otorgar la licencia basado en 21 para arriba?
In essence, he has two spaces. He has the restaurant and then he has the event space. And it's my understanding that in the event space, where there will be entertainment, there will be guests under the age of 21. So I think the 18 plus is appropriate given what he plans to do at that space.
En esencia, él tiene dos espacios separados. Tiene el área del restaurante y el espacio de eventos. En el espacio de eventos, él va a tener entretenimiento y va a tener a personas, hay clientes bajo la edad de 21 años. Entonces, yo pienso que la licencia de 18 para arriba es apropiada debido a lo que él planea hacer con el espacio.
Committee, what further questions do you have for the applicant?
Mr. Bruchek has his hand up.
Mr.
Comité-
Bruchek.
¿Qué otras preguntas tienen para el solicitante? Dicen, el señor Berchek tiene la mano levantada.
I just have a quick follow-up to Attorney Zillivi. If I recall correctly, we've issued or we've approved these 21 plus entertainment licenses to restaurants and other types of establishments, basically because we don't need the 18 plus, because people the ages of 18, 19, and 20 are already allowed in a restaurant or someplace. It's not just a tavern.
Y nada más tengo unas preguntas de seguimiento de lo que dijo la abogada Silvy. Hemos nosotros aprobado este tipo de aplicaciones de 21 para arriba cuando en la licencia en este tipo de lugares no se necesita tener, es la mayoría de edad, no se necesita tener la licencia de 18 para arriba porque las personas de 18, 19, 20 ya tienen permiso de estar ahí debido a que estas instalaciones funcionan principalmente como un restaurante, no como una cantina.
That is correct, but the event space isn't the restaurant.
Eso es correcto, pero el espacio para eventos no es el restaurante.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, Ms. Carter, then Ms. Farley.
Okay, señora Carter y luego la señora Welby.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and Attorney Zilvey can chime in, but it's my understanding from this discussion that there could be a private party in the event space while the restaurant is also being a restaurant. Am I correct on that?
Mi entendimiento, y la abogada Silvy puede también agregar aquí, pero mi entendimiento es que podría estar sucediendo un evento privado en el espacio de eventos, mientras que el restaurante está funcionando como restaurante. ¿Estoy correcto en esto?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Ms. Farley, then Alder Miyatsu.
Señorita Farley y después el señor Miyatsi.
Is it appropriate to ask questions of counsel at this time, or are we exclusively asking for?
Let's finish questions for the applicant, and then we can talk to the police and the attorneys and all that.
¿Sería apropiado hacer preguntas del comité ahora o solamente al solicitante? Él responde, vamos a terminar las preguntas al solicitante y ya después podemos hacerles preguntas a los miembros de la policía, de la comunidad, de lo que se resta.
Okay. Alder Miyatsi.
El señor Miyatsi.
I was gonna move a motion, but I guess go wait for go wait a second
Yeah.
then, or
Let's wait a little bit.
all right.
Él decía que si necesitaba esperar o podía hacer su pregunta, le dicen que él espere un momento.
What further questions do you have for the applicant?
¿Qué otras preguntas tienen para el aplicante?
All right, Mr. Verbeek, do we have any other registrants for this item?
No, this
Muy
is the
bien.
only registrant. Sorry.
¿Hay algún otro registrante para este artículo? Dice, no, él es el único registrado.
All right, committee, what questions do you have for staff or discussion or comment with each other?
I'm sorry for the interpreter. Do you want me to interpret this for him as well, or do you just want to chat among yourselves?
Let's see. I believe ethically we should let him be privy to all of our deliberations. So
Okay.
please continue to interpret, but thank you for asking.
Yes. Nada más yo le pregunto al señor que si necesito seguir interpretando sus conversaciones entre ellos, porque ahora entre ellos se van a hacer preguntas y dice que sí, por favor, continúe interpretando.
Oscar, we will let you know if we have any questions for you. Otherwise, please assume that this is discussion that does not require a response.
Oscar, le avisaremos si tenemos una pregunta específica para usted, pero ahora en estas conversaciones no requieren una respuesta de usted.
Alder Knox.
Entonces ahora la persona Knox, el concejal Knox.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a couple of questions. One, I believe the assistant attorney, did you say that you did have a meeting with the operator in zoning?
Tengo un par de preguntas, una para la como abogada. Parece que sí tuvieron un par de reuniones con la persona de zonificación.
That is correct.
Okay.
Es correcto.
And were there some parking issues that needed to be worked out and negotiated? I just recall there were some issues with parking, and I'm not clear that those issues got resolved. But was that more zoning issues?
We didn't.
Hubieron asuntos con el estacionamiento. Yo, si nomás no recuerdo, creo que habían asuntos de estacionamiento. No sé si estos se resolvieron, pero no me quedó bien claro si estos eran asuntos de estacionamiento, de zonificación, o no tengo yo bien claro.
We did not discuss that, but I think that is part of the process with zoning, with the conditional use process. He did talk about that they are redoing that parking lot and paving and stuff. So
No
So
lo
would that come up at Plan Commission?
No lo hablamos, pero parte de este uso de condicional va a ser de que esto va a surgir ahí en zonificación. Y si más no recuerdo, él estaba pensando en remodelar el estacionamiento y va a ponerle cemento y más otras cosas. I'm sorry, and Alderman Knox, what was your question again?
Will those zoning issues come up at the Plan Commission?
Entonces, ¿estos asuntos de zonificación van a salir en la comisión de planificación?
I can't say for sure. I don't know exactly what they address.
Well, okay, someone can correct me. I thought they dealt with some of the conditional use issues, or will we just deal with them all?
They do.
Yep. Okay, all right.
Yo no puedo decir de seguro si van a hablar sobre eso, entonces responde el concejal Knox, pero si yo más no recuerdo, ellos lidian con este tipo de usos condicionales. Ella responde, sí lo hacen, sí lo hacen.
Committee, what further discussion do you have? Ms. Farley, I believe you had a question for Captain Hansen.
Comité, ¿qué otras preguntas tienen? Creo que la consejera Farley tenía una pregunta para el capitán Hansen.
Yeah, my question is actually for Assistant Attorney Zillaby.
Sí, de hecho mi pregunta es para la cofiscal Zillaby.
With the separate event space and restaurant area, how does the entertainment license restrictions on age apply? Meaning, would no one under 18 be allowed only in the event space, but under 18 would be allowed in the restaurant, even though it's the same premises?
Tengo yo una pregunta sobre la separación de los espacios. Entonces, en el evento, en el espacio de eventos y restaurante, parece ser que sí, sobre esta licencia de entretenimiento, cómo se puede aplicar basado en la edad. Parece ser que nadie bajo la edad de 18 años se le permitiría en el espacio de eventos, pero en el lado del restaurante sí se permiten menores de edad. ¿Ese es cómo funcionaría?
In terms of the event space, it depends on the event. If they're having a family event with children, obviously that's fine because their parents are with them. So it's kind of event dependent. But in the restaurant, of course, there's no issue there.
Esto dependería del tipo de evento. Por ejemplo, si fuera un evento familiar con niños, obviamente los padres están ahí con ellos. Esto es bastante dependiente en el tipo de eventos y en el restaurante siempre se permitirían.
Ms. Farley, has your question been answered?
Yes, thank you.
Se le respondió su pregunta, concejal Farley, y ella responde sí, gracias.
Ms. Carter.
La señorita Carter.
I move adoption of 14 and 15.
Okay, we have a motion to grant 14 and 15 with a second from Dr. Reese.
Yo pido que se adopte el 14 y 15 con una segunda petición de la doctora Reese.
Alder Miazzi.
Concejal Miyatsi.
I'm sorry, Jerry Carter, repeat that, please.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a bit. Could you please repeat that, Charles?
No, I didn't hear what Jerry Carter said.
Oh, she moved to grant items 14 and 15, and Dr. Reese seconded.
Oh, okay. All right.
El concejal Miyatsi quería que se repitiera lo que dijo la concejal Carter. Él no había escuchado, entonces el señor le responde que ella solamente pidió que se le otorgara la petición 14 y 15 y la concejal Reese le apoyó.
So, committee discussion.
Yeah. Are there any? Is there any comments from Captain Hansen?
Sí, ¿hay algún comentario del capitán Hansen?
I did communicate with Captain Zanders, and every threshold from the meeting with Alder Knox and Attorney Zillaby has been discussed here and met, so no further issues from police.
Sí, también hablé sobre el asunto con el capitán Sanders, entonces ya nos habíamos reunido con la abogada Zillaby y el concejal Knox, entonces ningún asunto más a fondo de lo que ya se ha hablado aquí.
Any further discussion?
¿Algo más que
Dr.
se quiera
Reese.
hablar? Doctora Reese.
I want to speak in support of the motion. It's been, I believe, over 10 years since we've had an establishment like this on Park Street or on the South Side. And this is a really good addition for the neighborhood. And also an establishment owned by a person of color is a big plus for our entertainment scene. And so I'm looking forward to seeing if this passes, how it works out.
Yo nada más quiero hablar en apoyo sobre la petición. Han sido más de 10 años desde que hemos visto un establecimiento de este tipo en Park Street o en el lado del sur. Yo pienso que esto va a ser muy bueno para el vecindario, especialmente porque este es un establecimiento que va a tener una persona de color y va a ser muy bueno para la escena de entretenimientos. Es que yo estoy muy emocionada de ver qué va a suceder con esto.
And to the applicant, if any issues arise, he should not hesitate to reach out to community for support.
Y al solicitante, si surge cualquier problema, no dude en recurrir a la comunidad para el apoyo.
Anything else, Dr. Reese? Assistant City Attorney Zellaby.
La abogada Coffey, abogada Zellaby.
Hello, I just, Captain Zanders and Alder Knox, I believe, wanted a condition that he close at midnight on Friday and Saturdays. And we also had a discussion about that at our meeting and agreed that after he has a track record of operating the business, he could come back and ask for an extension of those hours. And he's familiar with that process. He did the same thing with his previous establishment.
Cuando nos reunimos nosotros y también con el concejal Knox y el capitán Sanders y hablamos sobre cortar las horas a la medianoche del viernes, también hablamos de que después de que ya esté en operación por un tiempo, él puede regresar a pedir una extensión de las horas y él conoce el proceso porque él lo pasó con su establecimiento anterior.
Jennifer, was that requested condition to cease sale and service of alcohol at midnight or to close?
To close.
Okay.
Jennifer, entonces esta condición basada en esta solicitud condicional era que él tenía que dejar de vender alcohol y servir alcohol a la medianoche, tenía que cerrar. Ella responde que tiene que cerrar.
Ms. Carter and Dr. Reese, are you comfortable with adding that condition to your motion?
I'm comfortable, but I thought, and Dr. Reese can chime in, I thought that he amended the application to reflect that.
It doesn't really matter what the application says. What matters is what's printed on the license.
Okay. Well, then I'm amendable. And hopefully Dr. Reese is.
Yes.
Entonces, a la señorita Carter y a la doctora Reese, ¿ustedes sienten cómodas con estos cambios y que se refleje este cambio en la aplicación? Y la señorita Carter responde, yo no vi en la solicitud que se habían hecho estos cambios. El presidente responde, no importa lo que diga la solicitud, lo que importa es lo que diga la licencia. Dice ella, entonces yo me siento cómoda con el cambio que dice la doctora Reese. Ella dice sí.
Deputy Clerk Verbeck.
Entonces, al consecretario Verbeck.
First, I want to clarify the condition is that the business shall close at midnight on Friday and Saturday evenings.
Nada más quiero aclarar entonces que la hora de clausura para esta condición será que se tiene que cerrar a la medianoche ambos viernes y sábado.
Yes.
We were particularly the entertainment venue.
So, Jim, maybe make that by midnight rather than at midnight.
Okay.
They're always welcome to close earlier.
Sure. And Mr. Baruchuk has his hand up.
Entonces, sí, especialmente lo del entretenimiento, responde el presidente. Sí, hay que aclarar que tiene que cerrar para la medianoche, no a la medianoche. Si él quiere cerrar antes, puede hacerlo. Y creo que el señor Burbidge tiene la mano levantada.
Mr. Baruchuk.
Thank you, Chair.
Señor Burchak.
I'm excited to pass this tonight. We've seen it the last few months and put a lot of thought into it. But and I did come here today thinking that the questions answered on the 21 plus entertainment section of the application would suffice. But now, after hearing from Attorney Zillavy, it seems like maybe we should seek answers for these additional questions because they do differ slightly from the questions on the 21 plus page. They're similar, but they are different enough. I just want to put the idea to the committee that I don't know if we've finished that part of it yet. If I'm wrong, then feel free to tell me. If not, then let's figure out a way to get this right.
Sí, yo estoy muy emocionado de pasar esto esta noche. Yo sé que hemos visto esto en la agenda los últimos 2 meses y le hemos puesto bastante energía. Entonces, quiero hablar nuevamente sobre las preguntas de el 21 para arriba. Yo pensé que iban a ser suficientes lo que se había contestado para hoy, pero ahora, después de escuchar lo que dijo la abogada Sylvie, no estoy seguro sobre la diferencia de 21 para arriba, 18 para arriba. Creo que son bastante similares, pero suficientemente diferentes también de que tal vez tengamos que regresar a contestarlas y terminar esto. Si estoy equivocado, díganme, pero si no, hay que tratar de corregir esto.
Thank you, Mr. Burshak. Committee,
Señor Burchak, comité.
Dr. Reese.
Doctora Reese.
Because these issues have been discussed at great length, I feel confident that the applicant has a good plan in place. And for the sake of consistency and completion, I would like him to send in, fill out that page and send it in for the file. But I don't believe that needs to hold up our process here.
Yo pienso que se ha hablado sobre el asunto bastante a fondo y yo pienso que tenemos un buen entendimiento del plan que va a suceder. Yo pienso que para la consistencia y realmente la totalidad de completar el proceso, yo pienso que se le puede pedir que llene esa última página y la mande y la tramite, pero por propósitos de hoy no pienso que se necesite demorar más esto sobre el asunto.
Assistant City Attorney Zillaby, then Mr. Burshak.
La abogada Sylvie, después el señor Burchak.
I just wanted to add that I will assist him in doing that. And
Nada más quería agregar que le voy a ayudar a hacerlo. Él responde, gracias.
Mr. Burshak.
Señor Burchak.
It was actually me. I was going to say that if the applicant feels comfortable, I have the application with me, that he can do that. But if Assistant City Attorney Zillaby is going to help him with that, then they can do that at that point.
No, de hecho, era yo. Yo iba a decir, yo tengo aquí la aplicación conmigo si él quería llenarla ahora mismo, pero si la abogada Sylvie le va a ayudar, entonces ellos pueden hacerlo.
All right. Committee, is there any further discussion?
Comité, ¿algo más que hablar?
Hearing none, is there any dissent?
¿Hay algún disentimiento?
Hearing none, motion carries. Items 14 and 15 are granted.
Muy bien, entonces se lleva la petición y los artículos 14 y 15 se otorgan.
Congratulations, Oscar, and have a good night.
Felicidades, Oscar, y que tenga una buena noche.
All right. Jim, has the person from item 13 appeared since? Oh, has that person appeared?
No, I still don't see them with a registration.
Okay. Do we have any further items that require interpretation?
We do not.
All right. Thank you for your time, Lorena. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you, you as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. Item 9, change of licensed premises for Divino at 116 King Street. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
Yes, Dino Maniaci is in Zoom.
Beautiful. Dino, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you are proposing? Steven, what's going on?
I think I'm waiting on media team to. I don't have the rights to.
Oh, I hit the allow to talk button.
Hello?
Yep,
Yes.
you're good. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yep. So can you please introduce yourself, Dino, and let us know what you're proposing?
I am Dino Aniachi. I'm sitting in the back hallway between my restaurant and my hopefully new kitchen. Right now, we are proposing to take over the rest of the cousin space behind Divino and enlarge our kitchen by about 200 square feet, and then add a small retail to-go area in front for daytime to-go lunches.
Excellent. Thank you. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Ms. Farley.
Yes, I was looking at your floor plans earlier today. It looks like there are two separate floor areas that require entrance by patients, or not patients, patrons. There we go. Like they'd have to go outside to go to the two separate entrances. Is that correct, or am I misinterpreting that?
Yeah, the 106 Webster will be open during the day for our lunch takeout, and that has that retail space has no connection to the restaurant and back. The only connecting item is the kitchen and the service areas, and then people that would come to Divino to eat in the evening enter on King Street.
Perfect. Thank you, Dino.
All right, committee, what additional questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
Committee, what's your pleasure?
I move to grant.
Your motion to grant from Alder Revere. Is there a second?
Mr. Bruchak has his hand up.
Second from Mr. Bruchak. Is there, or Ms. Alder Revere, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't think it's necessary, so I'll leave it at that. I'm happy for I'm happy for the applicant that they're able to expand, and I know that this is something that they've been contemplating for some time now. So
excellent.
Good luck, Dino.
Excellent. So, committee, is there any discussion?
It sounds like Dino is trying to say something.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dino.
Oh, I just said hoping that COVID doesn't happen again. We'll be okay.
Yeah, we're there with you.
Yes.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 9 is granted. Congratulations, Dino, and have an excellent night. Next up, item 11, extending a license issuance deadline for tacos and tequila at 1925 Monroe. Jim, do we have a registrant here for this item?
We have two registrants. We have Ben Roberts and Alan Stupinian.
All right. Ben or Alan, whoever wants to go first, please introduce yourself and let us know what's going on.
Good evening. This is Ben Roberts. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
All right, great. So we have had this lease for 13 months and intended to be opened about 7 months ago. We had a little bit of a struggle finding a contractor who could fulfill our needs in this building. And once we did procure a great contractor, we ran into multiple issues with the structure of the building and some intricacies with that. So we are asking to have our approval extended. The new contractor, we're well on our way now, and the new contractor says that we will be open by the end of January.
Well, I, along with probably thousands of other people in Madison, can empathize with the challenges in finding tradespeople available to do work. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? All right. Alan, do you have anything additional you would like to add?
Ben is my partner, and yeah, whatever Ben said, it's exactly how I feel. So hopefully, this is going to go through to be granted, and we'll move forward.
Sounds good. Committee, what is your pleasure? Dr. Reese. Dr. Reese?
To approve?
There a motion to approve from Dr. Reese. Is that a second from Ms. Carter?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the request to extend. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 11 is granted. Ben and Alan, I hope that you encounter no surprises for the rest of the process. Next up, item 16, new license application for Double Tap at 347 State. Mr. Verbeek, do you have the registrant here for this item?
Yep. Yeah. Robert Proctor's here in person, and we also have Anthony DeSalvo is registered in Zoom.
All right, Robert, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your proposed establishment?
Robert Proctor, I'm the attorney for the applicant. This matter has already been in front of the committee before with a long presentation. I'm happy to go through everything again, but it was 3 liquor licenses, one for the Roxy, which is a nightclub, one for the Stuffed Olive, which is a restaurant, tavern, and one for the Double Tap, which is a restaurant with an arcade. It's in the Olive building. All 3 facilities are served by an extremely large kitchen, about a $500,000 kitchen. Only dropped the number to show how robust the kitchen is and the food that's going to be prepared. The Olive is going to have over 1,000 residents in it, and this facility will also be serving those residents, delivery to those residents. It was originally approved by the committee with conditions. It went before it got to the Common Council. Attorney McReynolds had done a little bit of a deep dive into the ordinances, and there was a zoning issue that came up, and we met with City Attorney's Office and Matt Tucker at Building Inspection and the Zoning Department and worked out the zoning side of it. So it was referred back here, and that's where we're at. Assistant Attorney McReynolds and Alder Revere shared the proposed conditions with us today, and they're acceptable to us. And I'm happy to go into a lot of detail if you like, but if it's not necessary, I'm happy just to answer questions.
I believe that was exactly the right amount of detail. It is always delightful when applicants retain counsel. Mr. Verbeek.
It's okay. So I believe I checked the conditions. They're the same ones that we approved 2 months ago, was it? Nothing's changed in that time? Because the Common Council heard it on October 3rd when we referred it back to us.
Correct. I would leave it to the City Attorney's Office.
Anyone remember?
Touch different, but
Alder Verveer, can you address that?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Chair, and appreciate Attorney Proctor being there, and Assistant City Attorney McReynolds and Assistant City Attorney Zilovey can also speak to this. But the conditions that are recommended by the Office of the City Attorney are very familiar to all of us on the committee, and I'll just read them now, realizing this is not a formal motion. We're still in question and answer period, but it would be my intention going into the public hearing that I would move to grant the license with the following 3 conditions. Number one, that the establishment shall meet the definition of a restaurant as defined in Madison General Ordinances, section 38.02 at all times. Number two, food shall be available at all times. And number three, no patrons are permitted to enter or re-enter the establishment after 1:30 a.m. on Friday or Saturday nights.
Excellent.
And again,
Thank you.
and again, these are at the recommendation of the city attorney's office.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Alder Revere. Mr. Bruchak, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, I have two more questions. They'll be quick. So that means the zoning issue was solved, because if I recall correctly, you had an issue with shall meet the definition of a restaurant, because that had an issue with zoning, but that's been figured out in the city attorney's office, and so
It's figured out.
okay. And one last thing. Well, I'll wait. It's not directly. It's not for you. It's for someone else.
All right. Further questions for the applicant? Alder Miadzi.
Thank you. I was just ready to make a motion, but I was going to make sure that Attorney Zalaby was addressing all concerns, but sounds like my fellow alder already did all that. So just waiting the motion to grant. So I'll wait for my turn to do that. But I'll defer to my colleagues to do that.
Sounds good. Committee, any further questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
Just Anthony DeSalvo.
He doesn't need to speak. He's just here.
Wonderful. Alder Revere, take it away.
Well, thank you, Chair. As I just shared the preview, I will now formally move to grant the combination Class B alcohol license with the following three conditions. So for the record, they are, again, number one, establishment shall meet the definition of a restaurant as defined in Madison General Ordinances, section 38.02 at all times. Number two, food shall be available at all times. And number three, no patrons are permitted to enter or re-enter the establishment after 1:30 a.m. on Friday or Saturday nights.
Is there a second?
Mr. Bruchak seconded.
Second from Mr. Bruchak.
He also
Is there Mr. Bruchak?
Yeah, I'm curious because where we started, I believe it was 2 months ago, with those conditions. There was a concern that was brought up, so we subbed in some other language to avoid using the word restaurant. It goes to Common Council on October 3rd. It goes back to the original conditions, and now it's back to us. So I guess I'm curious, why couldn't the council just pass the conditions that they preferred or that was worked out after our meeting? The process is confusing, and also it's Attorney Proctor and had to come here on the day before Thanksgiving for a meeting.
Assistant City Attorney McReynolds.
Yeah, so I think procedurally it would have maybe been possible to have those conditions passed by the council at that time, but at that time the zoning issue had not been worked out. And so I think that the recommendation from the city attorney's office at that common council meeting was to refer to this meeting so that we could have time to work out with zoning those issues in order to proceed. And just so you know, what happened is we met with zoning, and originally there was confusion about how this establishment was defined. And as you know, because it's in the alcohol overlay district, things have to be permitted in a certain way, and only certain kinds of establishments are permitted. And this one was a little, different because it involves involves arcade and other items. It's not just a straight up restaurant or a straight bar, which if it was a straight bar, then it would not be allowed in that area. So after meeting with zoning and going through some details, zoning would consider this, because of some changes, would consider this to be a restaurant tavern. And so because that got resolved now, that's why we're back here. So this is a restaurant tavern, which is allowed in the alcohol overlay district, with conditions that zoning puts on it as well.
Thank you, Assistant City Attorney McReynolds. Mr. Bruchuk, does that answer your question?
I sincerely appreciate the context. Without that explanation, Attorney McReynolds, I would have felt like I had no role in this process, but somehow was involved nonetheless. But thanks for explaining the background there.
It was a good question. Thank you, Mr. Bruchuk. Committee, is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 16 is granted with conditions. Congratulations, Anthony, and I hope you don't have to come back here anytime soon.
For being here tonight.
Next item, item 20, new license application for Ernie's Liquor at 4521 Cottage Grove Road. Mr. Verbeck, do we have a registrant for this item?
Yes, Aaron Ring is registered and in Zoom.
Excellent. Aaron, can you please introduce yourself and let us know about the proposed business?
Yeah, my name is Aaron Ring. I am looking to open a liquor store, and my nickname is Ernie. It is currently Harley's Wine and Spirits, and the current owner is Chuck Cohen's. He owns 2 Harley's liquor stores on the east side. I've been a manager for him for 18 plus years. I basically run the store already that I'm applying for the liquor license for. Like I said, I've been doing it a long time with him, and he had promised when he wanted to downsize that I would have the first crack at it. So here I am.
Excellent. This is a happy story that we're always delighted to hear.
Cool.
Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeck, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
All right, committee, what is your pleasure?
I'll move for approval.
Your motion to approve from Alder Knox. Is there a second? Ms. Carter?
Second.
Second from Ms. Carter. Committee, is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 20 is granted. Congratulations, Aaron. And as you can see, when longtime employees move to take over places, that is a straightforward process. Oh, shoot. Pardon me, I have knocked over my soda. And there's no co-chair to hand this off to. So item 26, entity reorganization for SAS of Madison. Do we have a registrant here for this item?
We do. Joe Perkins is registered and in Zoom.
All right, Joe, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what's going on?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
We do.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
Joe, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you are proposing?
My name is Joe Perkins. I am the owner of SAS of Madison and of Tudo Pasta on State Street. As you guys have probably heard, we are combining our restaurants to move Tudo's menu and food and staff up to SAS on the square. It's a huge financial decision based on the viability of the building at Tudo. As you guys all know, it's a very old building. I have spent much money on that building, renovating a place that does not belong to me, and have gotten no help from the landlord in the almost 6 years that I've been part of this business. So financially, I cannot do it anymore. It doesn't make sense for me to do it anymore. She has refused to help and upgrade anything. So when my lease was up, I decided to move Tudo's menu and staff and food up to the square to combine with SAS and make a much better option for everybody up there. We've had some great feedback from people. We've had a few people upset, of course, because Tudo's been there for 27 years. I get it. But they have to understand that going into a building that I can't fix anymore is just not viable for me. My business partner, my old business partner, Kay, I have bought her out. That's why we are having all three issues tonight. Evidently, I guess no fault to anybody. It happens. My paperwork was lost and then refound. That's why the agent can't be transferred till next month, because they have to do my background check, which I haven't got done. So we are combining both restaurants as of December 1st. I've gone through the processes of getting an awning approved already. The sign, we're still doing some tweaking on that. And all the paperwork's been filed on the change of ownership and things of that nature. I have signed paperwork that's been given saying that Kay is no longer my business partner. So I think it's the best thing for Tudo to still have the Tudo name in downtown Madison. And it's just 3 blocks away. It's just on the other side of the Overture, not across that way. It's on the upside. So I'm very excited about it. My staff's excited about it. We think it's a great idea, and the customer base is super excited as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Verbeek, are there any other registrants for this item?
There are not.
Committee, what's your pleasure? Ms. Carter.
I move approval.
Second.
Your motion to approve from Ms. Carter, second from Alder Verveer. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26 is granted. Best of luck with the continuing process, Joe, and I hope you have a good rest of your night. Next up, item 21 is a discussion item. So discussion of how ALRC can provide support to non-English speaking applicants so they can make informed decisions. Mr. Bruchak, would you like me to introduce this topic, or would you like to?
You can introduce it. I just have a few notes, and I would also be okay if we sort of gave an introduction today and put on the agenda for next month, instead of talking about it tonight for another 3 or 4 hours. But whatever the committee thinks.
Sounds good. Okay, so this is this item came out of a discussion that Mr. Bruchak and I had after the meeting last month, where we had an applicant who happily returned this month, having had ample opportunity to meet with members of city staff and flesh things out and get a more thorough understanding of the rules and ordinances involved and how their business fit in with it. We have had points in the past, in my 10 plus years on ALRC, where applicants who did not have English as their first language have struggled at one or more points in the process with understanding their rights and their obligations. Now, in and of itself, that is not unique to applicants who do not speak English as their first language. We've had plenty of applicants who are confused in a number of ways. However, it happens more often with applicants who do not speak English as a first language. And speaking only like personally as a human being on this committee, I know that I've had more times at the end of the process where I have been concerned on behalf of the applicant and their thorough understanding with non-English speaking applicants than with others. and none of that is ideal. Mr. Bruchak, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think I talked to a few people after that meeting, and I, understand that this is something it's not the first time we're talking about this, and some of the ideas that I think I have the ability to come up with the help from my colleagues on the committee will involve higher level decisions that's outside the scope of this committee. But I thought, one thing we can do is look over the forms again, make sure that the information that we're providing to people in English and in other languages is comprehensive enough to be helpful and translated properly into the other language. And if I recall, there is or was a subcommittee of this committee to deal with forms. Is that correct?
The Operating Practices Subcommittee.
Yes, operating practices. And that's something, I don't know when the last time they met, but maybe, and I'd volunteer to be on that subcommittee. And then as for the interpreters, one thing that I find confusing is when we deal with interpreters, members of the committee and the applicant get confused about who's talking to who. And it's the consecutive interpretation which takes a long time and causes that confusion. If we're able to figure out simultaneous interpretation, either through Zoom or if we have to consider other ways to achieve that, it's worth thinking about. And then finally, I think that we should look at the entertainment license ordinance, and I know that kind of goes beyond just language issues, but that ordinance is written in English, and I have trouble understanding it. So I think we should figure out if there's a way we can make that easier to understand, more obvious to casual readers on what the requirements are. So I hope others are inspired about this issue. I don't think we need to try to solve it tonight, as I said previously. Would you put it on, now that we've said some of this stuff out loud in front of the whole committee, would you put it on the agenda for next month after more, and have another discussion, and then maybe even make a motion to set a date for that subcommittee or whatever else might be appropriate?
Of course. I'd like to say a couple of things, and then I will call on the additional people. First, I'm very much on board with all but one of the things that Mr. Bruchak said. I think we might get into trouble making easier to understand versions of ordinances. Ordinances like contracts are precisely defined for legal purposes. And if we made a sidecar document, it could be problematic. Now, that said, if the ordinances are murky and could be rewritten as less murky ordinances, that would be a great idea. Regarding making all of the stuff Mr. Bruchak was talking about actually happen, I will float an idea for a roadmap, but the committee can, of course, do as it sees fit. We could have some preliminary discussion tonight to get people thinking about it, have a follow-up discussion at our next meeting, and also at that meeting, make sure that we've got the members of the ALRC Subcommittee on Operating Practices defined and schedule a meeting for that subcommittee with the understanding that at the following ALRC meeting, they will return with recommendations for us to ratify. Ms. Farley and Dr. Reese.
I'm curious to the appropriateness of a plan similar to what you've proposed, Chair. But would it be possible for us to, are we able to gather feedback from committee members outside of a meeting to then refer it to, or does it have to occur in the?
There are some interesting open meeting law ramifications. So we cannot have a discussion as a committee. I believe, and I will ask Assistant City Attorney McReynolds to confirm or deny this, but I believe that if we were to submit information to Mr. Verbeck, so that we aren't having any kind of back and forth discussion, we are one way transmitting information to him, and then he puts all of that into Legistar, and it becomes available both to the public and to the members of the Operating Practices Subcommittee. I think that would be legit. Assistant City Attorney McReynolds.
I think that would be appropriate.
Excellent. The key is not having something where one person emails the whole committee and then somebody else replies. Ms. Farley.
The reason I ask is I think it's more appropriate to request that, if so moved, the committee members kind of submit their opinions or ideas for possible solutions, and then the matter is referred to the subcommittee.
I have no concerns with that. Dr. Reese.
Glad this is coming up, and we're getting a plan together to spend some good time on it. It's so important, and it's also something that's so logistically ends up being logistically complicated and potentially involving some budget decisions to have enough staff to support making this possible. Just one other issue that I wanted to mention that I know has been an issue in the past is a person whose first language isn't English or who doesn't speak English needs to fill out an English application, and they're asked in English whether or not they need an interpreter, which I think has gotten us in trouble in the past. So that's a big one to put on the list. I'm wondering if it's possible for that subcommittee to make an attempt to meet before the next regular scheduled meeting, if in fact we still have people that are on the committee. I know it's been a while since we've had one of those meetings, but if possible, like through a process of submitting things to Mr. Verbeek, if possible, and if I know schedules get complicated this time of year, but if we can work out a subcommittee meeting so that we're prepared for a thoughtful discussion, and if that on our next meeting, I think that would be great. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Mr. Verbeek, do you know, and if not, are you able to figure out the current makeup of the ALRC Operating Practices Subcommittee?
That's a good question. I remember I sent let's see, it is, I think last I saw it was you, Alder Verveer, and Miss Farley, I believe.
Well, that is excellent news, because I believe that appointing people to that subcommittee would be an item that is not on our agenda, and we would run afoul of open meetings law. But if we already have appointed members of the subcommittee, it would be in order for us to refer this item, properly noticed, from our agenda to that subcommittee, if someone wanted to make that motion.
I also do recall at one point the committee moved that everyone on the committee is a member of the subcommittees.
I fear that was only the operator's license, subcommittee, although if you can find documentation that I'm wrong, I would be delighted because I don't want to be right about that.
I believe we had an item for each subcommittee, and then that was the motion for both of them, if I recall properly.
Well, even better. If that turns out to be the case, it will be even easier to manage this. At any rate, committee, that sort of referral is one of the options available to you at the point when we make a motion. First, Alder Figueroa Cole.
Good night. Thank you for this item. I really appreciate it. One, I misinterpreted the earlier question about feedback, but I'm going to roll in my misinterpretation anyway. Another, it would be great to have some kind of, I mean, maybe you have this already, but it would be great to have some kind of form where the applicants can provide feedback for us to collect the information that we're trying to fix, so we can measure the impact of the changes we'll be making. And then learn again what else we can be doing better. And that could be something that can be applied across the board, not just for the non-English speakers. But I think collecting the feedback from the applicants will have some value.
Thank you. Ms. Farley, then Ms. Carter.
I would like to make a motion to refer this to the subcommittee, and then also encourage the current committee members and any alders to submit any relevant feedback to Assistant City Clerk, so that we could review during the meeting of the subcommittee.
Do I hear a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion of Ms. Farley's motion?
My hand was up.
Ms. Carter.
I just want to say that I think it should, I agree that it should be referred to the committee, but I think that it should come back in January to the full committee. With that, I think that, for example, when I have had people that have applied with that English is not their first language, I have gave them a checklist on who they need to contact, but I've also informed city staff that they need to have an interpreter when they are contacted by X person. Now, I know that not all alders are going to do that, but I think that that's one other thing that we need to incorporate in the subcommittee discussion.
That's a great idea.
So I don't know if Ms. Farley is open to changing it from the next meeting to January, and then the subcommittee meet in December.
Yeah, I guess motion to amend my motion.
Well, your motion was to refer this to the operating practices subcommittee.
I didn't
So
provide a date.
you didn't. So ultimately, that subcommittee will meet and will then refer the item back to us. So Mr. Verbeek can do his best to schedule it. I agree with Ms. Carter and what a good timeline would be. We'll see what can actually happen given holiday timing. Ms. Carter, then Dr. Reese.
That's all I had. I second it and I'm fine.
Excellent. Dr. Reese.
I just wanted to clarify, I was saying, even if possible, if the subcommittee meets before December, then we could talk about it on our December meeting. I know that's like a ridiculously tight timeline, but just to like in the interest of, you know, a sense of urgency kind of thing. And my proposal was thinking that the subcommittee could sort of structure the, think of the relevant points and help us structure the discussion so that when we get to our next ALRC meeting, we have some clear points that have been thought through that we can talk through, which doesn't mean we can't introduce anything, but just to kind of give us a starting place, because I'm thinking, this is something we're going to need public input. We're going to need feedback like Alder Figueroa-Cole suggested. So it's not something that's going to even be decided by January probably, but something that we set in motion. So just to clarify what I meant.
Understood. Thank you. All right, committee, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion to refer to the ALRC Operating Practices Subcommittee is approved. Mr. Verbeek, can you handle trying to wrangle us to get that scheduled?
Yep, I'll send in a doodle poll around.
Beautiful. Ms. Farley.
In addition to encouraging my fellow committee members to submit any feedback, this is a public meeting. If there's any members of the public, they're welcome to submit feedback as well.
That is a very good point. So everyone, members of the committee, members of the public, staff, elders, whoever, please send your feedback to licensing@cityofmadison.com. Next up, item 22, report of Madison Police Department. And Captain Hansen,
we lost
are
the
you
captain.
still? All right, moving right along. Item 23, report of clerk. Mr. Verbeek, what would you like to draw our attention?
I do not have anything directly to draw attention for that report. I'll just add something that isn't on the agenda, but will be on future agendas, that you should all receive a notice to complete your statement of interest, and you'll need to do that soon. So do it as soon as possible. If you have any issues logging in, there is a contact support button to the right that you can click that to get any help that you need if you can't remember your password or if the system's just being difficult.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Verbeek. Mindy, do you have any questions for our deputy city clerk? Ms. Farley.
Yeah, actually, so if I have questions about the database and storage of different licenses and all of that good stuff, is it appropriate for me to reach out outside of the meeting, or do I have to let everyone sit through my questions?
It would be fine to reach out outside of the meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any further questions?
I will just add to that, if you or any member of the public or anyone has any desire to find any of the active alcohol license or entertainment licenses, we do have a publicly searchable database that you can use, and that is available to everyone. But open to any questions at any time.
I am also going to take this opportunity to make a plug on behalf of the clerk's office, which is, if there is ever any information you want, please consider just asking first rather than submitting a Freedom of Information request. The latter has a lot of paperwork associated, and frequently they'd be happy to just give you the information without it. Okay, I believe that brings us to the bottom of our agenda. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Bruchak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Carter. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same privilege. Motion carries. ALRC is done at 7:24 p.m. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and I'll see you next month.
Good night, everyone.
Same to you.